The little subheading for measurement here is doing the arithmetic of measurements. How do we spell arithmetic? Arithmetic. And mostly this deals with working with measurements in our goofy customary system. And here is, for example, problem. It's easier to me to give the example than explain it. Add 2 feet plus 12 inches. Okay. And the gist of this is what you must realize. Anytime you're working with measurements and you're doing math with them, okay, they have to be in the same unit of measurement. Because you cannot just say that 2 feet plus 12 inches, well, 2 plus 12 is 14. Is that 14 feet or 14 inches? Neither answer would be right, by the way. You can't just pick and choose. So you must, and here's where a little common sense, you either need to change that into inches, into feet, so that you can add it to that, or you need to change this into inches, and then you can add it to that. Look at all those helpful little arrows there. And you have to just kind of be, you got to look ahead to it and say, okay, which one would probably be the wiser thing to do? In this case, probably, Elijah, you're going to, you're probably going to say, since this is equal to a foot, it's just as easy to say, okay, I add that 2 plus 1 is 3 feet. But that would be different if it was 2 feet plus 8 inches. I probably wouldn't change that into feet because it doesn't make up a foot, and then I'm going to have to probably say, well, 2 feet is how many inches? 24 inches, and then I can add it to the 8 to get 32 inches. So again, there's no magic like whatever formula or whatever. You just have to kind of say, well, this makes more sense than doing it that way. Another example of that would be, what else did they give us? Hold on a second. No, another thing that they give you is this, and this will defy you. If I say to multiply 4 feet times 8 feet, what do you suppose the answer to that is? By the way, those are in the same unit of measurement, so what we just talked about is Riley?
32 feet.
32 feet is actually not correct. Now, and I'll show you why. That's a kind of a logical sort of thing. What reason would I multiply 4 feet by 8 feet? Well, the reason I would probably do that is I'm trying to find the area of something that's maybe 4 feet by 8 feet. Okay? And when I measure that, I do get 32, but in math, it's really easy to overlook labels. If I multiply 4 feet by 8 feet, I can't forget what happens when I multiply a foot by a foot. That's where you end up with a foot squared. If you have 2 of those getting multiplied together, you can't forget about that. That makes feet squared. Just like if I had 4 feet times 2 feet times 3 feet. Yeah, my numbers get multiplied together to give me 24, but so do my labels. A foot times a foot times a foot actually gives me a foot cubed. You cannot forget about labels. They come very, very important next year when you do that. Okay. Let's see. Another one would be, the same thing with division. They'll give you some goofy problems that you'll look at that and go, what? That doesn't make any sense. Well, it doesn't have to make sense. 25 miles squared. Here's what it'll look like. 25 square miles divided by 5 miles. Oof. The number part's going to be pretty easy because 25 divided by 5 is 5. But what happens with these labels? And here is where, remember doing all that when you did the prime factorization of stuff and the same things crossed off? Same thing is true. What does miles squared mean? it means you have miles times miles. And if you have 1 mile on top and there's 2 mile, or 1 mile on bottom with 2 miles on top, you can cross off one of those just like they are common factors, just like if you prime factorize, and you're left with just 5 miles. Okay, labels work just like numbers. If they're identical, one on top, one on bottom, you can cross them off, and that'll get rid of it. And I know it's kind of confusing, but it's probably good to avoid. Like this, here's a good one, and maybe this will make some sense to you. If you have 300 miles over 10 gallons, and you're asked to make that simpler, okay? And by the way, this would be a real problem from the real world. If you drove 300 miles and used 10 gallons of gas, if you were trying to figure out your mileage, how many times does 10 go into 300? 30. You end up with what looks like this, 30 miles over 1 gallon. But that, we don't usually say it that way. We usually say, if we're talking about gas mileage, we say my car gets 30 miles per gallon. But that's what that means, 30 miles over 1 gallon. It's a ratio. But usually we say it, or we'll abbreviate it as what? MPG. You don't care much about that, but when you get to be a driver, you'll care about that when gas is really expensive. The word per in math, kids, the word per is a fraction line. A fraction line. If you do 5 math problems per hour, that's the same as saying 5 problems per 1 hour. That's your ratio, your comparison. You just kind of make it simple. What else can we go with here? What would you get if you had this? 12 centimeters squared over 4 centimeters. 12 centimeters squared over 4 centimeters. And I asked you to simplify that. The number part is easy. What happens to the number part? 4 goes into 12 how many times? 3 times. What happens to these labels? This is centimeters squared. That's centimeters. Well, you have to remember this written out is actually centimeters times centimeters. So you can cross one of them with one of them, but you're still left with one. So your answer is 3 centimeters. Or what is 9 feet times 3 feet? Will give me 9 feet times 3 feet is, Jaden?
27 feet squared.
27 feet squared. And you couldn't do, this would not be a problem you'll see. They will not tell you 9 feet times 8 inches. You can't do that. 9 feet times 8 inches does not give you 72 feet inches. Okay, you can't do that. You then again would have to change this either both into inches or both into feet. 9 feet is what? 108 inches? 108 times 8 is what? 864 what?
Inches squared.
Inches squared. So, that's kind of enough for that, don't you think?